Nation. We're here on a cold February night in the Warrior Center. That's a good thing to say right now. But tonight we have a very, very special treat. We've got four previous and current baseball coaches at DC with us tonight. And before we introduce our all-star panel that we've got here, so some of the things we want to talk. Some of the no pressure there, but. Is we sort of want to talk a little bit about, I mean, part of this is we're representing roughly 25 years of DC baseball right here at this table. And so we want to talk just a little bit about the history of where DC baseball's come from and talk about some unforgettable moments and players and games and things that maybe, quite frankly, I'm sort of the least of the apostles here in terms of being around for the longest time.
Football, they talk about strategy and stuff. You talk about basketball, they're looking for thunder dunks and expect, but baseball's got that thing, you got to tell a story.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? And that's what we want. We want to hear the stories, what makes baseball special. And they're not always the ones that come out all right, but that's baseball for you. You never know what's going to happen.
Absolutely. It's America's, it's the national pastime for a reason. You're sort of sitting around drinking lemonade, listening to the baseball game on the radio. So we're going to start sort of in chronological order, not necessarily the way they're sitting, but the coach that goes back to further is Mr. Steve Skolik. He coached from 94 to 2003. Something like that.
It was a long time.
You were a young guy back then.
Are you the winningest coach, right?
101. Longevity.
Longevity.
I lasted the longest. Yeah.
Okay, that's awesome.
Started when I was 22 years old. 22 years old, head coach. I was like a JT.
Nice.
Wow.
Nice. Yeah.
That's cool. Young guy.
So then we got Matt Morrison. He coached from 2013 to 2015, as I understand it.
That's correct.
And he's now the head coach at Middletown Madison, the Division III rival of DC, and we'll get a chance to play him May 4th, and look forward to a good opportunity. So we look forward to hearing some of his perspective.
Hey, he took a lot of DC guys with him. But Middletown Madison has the most Christian coaching staff in your league, I would think. I mean, what, right? Schubert, who you got with
Coach
you?
Schubert, Coach Reese, Coach Worley.
Yeah.
They're the backbones. They are the absolute backbones.
What a core.
And that's a great thing. That's a good thing.
From the get-go, it was a conversation over the phone, and I just told them that I'm not sure I'm going to get back into coaching if they aren't there with me. So going through the interview process and stuff, I asked them if I could take on that opportunity, would you please come with me? And Coach Schubert definitely said yes. Coach Worley said yes, and Coach Reese, he was the hang-up. And he said, are we coaching baseball? He said, or are we doing a ministry? And I said, we're doing a ministry. He said, I'm in. So, and just today, we had a life moment with a kid. So, going through a rough time in life, and it was just a good moment. And then being able to come back to DC was a special day in general. So, thankful for those three guys for sure.
Awesome, that's great. Then we swing over to this side. The current assistant coach and head coach, Tim Bauer. He coached basically the head coach in 2018, but you've been coaching since.
A little bit in 16, but full time on the staff on 17 and then 18 too, and obviously last year.
And then the current head coach, Doug Adams, who this is sort of his a reprise for you as well, because you were an assistant coach.
Yes.
Under another coach.
Yeah, I was under Coach Sharp. He was fortunate, gave me an opportunity to come to DC when I was, just getting into high school coaching. I'd always done the summer thing. He gave me an opportunity to come in and work with the varsity hitters, and then I was the JV coach. And the biggest thing for me is I appreciate this happening, because the first thing I realized when I came to DC was I didn't feel there was a history of baseball, even though it was a successful baseball program. So that's why we went through and we redid the record book, and luckily, Steve was amazing and helped me through it all. I went through record books or stat sheets from 1977, and I went through to make a new record book because I want this to be connected. This is a great start of it, but this year we have 2 former players coming back to talk to our team already scheduled. Steve's agreed to come back and speak to our team this year. I really want to get the family feel, because DC baseball has touched so many lives that I want to get everybody connected where when DC's taking the field in 2020, they're representing everybody that's ever worn the uniform or went to the school. And so that's why I was very excited for this opportunity to bring everybody together.
Yeah, it's a great thing, and we would all be remiss. There's coaches that go back further than Steve's era, but a couple of coaches that have been in between there couldn't be with us tonight for a variety of health reasons. One of them being John Sharp, who you said you had coached under, and also Randy Pavlik, who unfortunately the start of the 18 season, the next day I think was the first scrimmage, and he had a stroke, and so we miss both of you. We would love to have had you here, be part of this discussion, but know that you're not forgotten. Again, back to that family feel. So
Playing for Pav, still playing for Pav.
absolutely, and I just wanted to share a quick story as we got started, and I think sort of I'm sort of the Johnny come lately to this group, but you say that family feel and that that connectedness is we moved here in literally like 3 years ago this month, and I actually got a chance to go on a Friday night game at Centerville against Emmanuel Christian, and I happened to just I was after work. I just wanted to go see DC play. I wanted to get a feel for the school, get a feel for what was going on in the sports culture. And I got a seat by myself. I wasn't within probably 10, 15 feet of anybody. And I happened to hear Coach Bauer at the time, didn't know he was Coach Bauer, and all of a sudden he was trying to get some kid to come out to play baseball. And I said, what do you have to do with the program? He goes, well, I'm a baseball coach. And that's my oldest son is baseball. He can't think of doing anything more than playing baseball. But long and the short was, we had a God moment there. I genuinely believe it because we didn't know what was going to happen.
Hey, we got to stop for a second.
So, but anyway, long and the short was, I was just going there to see the culture, and then very, very quickly, all of a sudden I realized my son was a freshman. We were coming in, moving from Iowa to Ohio, and all of a sudden found out that his son was also a freshman, was also playing baseball, Dylan. And one thing led to another. Basically, Andrew came to the school and basically shadowed Dylan for a couple of days, went to a baseball practice, and the neat part about it is, and I genuinely, I see God's hand in that entire move back here was because this fall, Dylan and Andrew will both be going to Cedarville to play baseball. And they're, at this point in time, playing in a room together. So that's a neat thing to sort of see something come full circle, that he was the first kid that my son met, and quite frankly, going off into the wild blue yonder at Cedarville to play baseball.
No doubt, those two are two of our best players this year, and we hope they're making history because we want to get to state.
Absolutely.
All right.
Absolutely.
So, but let's talk. Let's get into the history here. What were the best players you guys saw on the field? Who was the guy? I mean, he just either he hit it a ton or he could, strike him out. Who are the guys? Anybody? Steve?
Best all-around player, kid named Zach Helm.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's ended up playing for Mount Vernon, Nazarene, played 4-year starter. Just could do anything. This is a true ball player. When I took over, we had a lot of kids who just came out for the team. This kid was a true player who played year-round. Was working with the classics back when the classics were big. It just
What position?
Shortstop.
Shortstop.
Short
Okay.
pitch, everybody pitches a little bit. Shortstop pitches a little bit, but could hit the ball, where it was pitched. He was the only kid that could hit a curve on my team at the time. So, he's a kid teaching other kids how to go the opposite way. Wait on it, move your hands back, push it. Those kinds of things. It's just fantastic kid. Also one of those kids that, I look back now, he's probably the best kid I ever coached. And I would say he's my biggest success story. Because I talk to him all the time. He calls me up, we have lunch, we have coffee. He asks me advice. I don't know why he's asking me advice, but he's asking me advice. Just had a kid, Coach, what do I do? How do I be a dad? And stuff like that. It just means the world to me as a coach, that I had that kind of impact on his life. So Zach is he's the guy.
How about you, Matt? You got special guys?
Yeah, I mean, I think just as sitting around the table with a bunch of coaches, you hate specifically pointing out individuals because, yeah, that person may have had success, but it took 8 other ball players to pitch, catch, throw, hit, and score runs.
Well, then give us a special team. That's fun.
You know, I would say that I'll start with the player. I think Sam Worley was a kind of a do-it-all guy for us. He threw the heck out of the ball off the mound. He hit extremely well. He convinced me he was a shortstop for the longest time. Wanted to protect his arm, and he actually was able to throw the ball across the diamond really well. And player-wise, stats-wise, all that stuff, I'd say Sam Worley, but he definitely had a great battery mate in Joe Hardy. Had some great infielders around him, and Charles Brads as well, who went and played at Taylor. He had a lot of good players around him too to help be a supporting cast. I would say, fortunately, probably the 2016 DC baseball team is probably at my time at DC, and I don't want to discount anything anybody else is doing, so I want to be very clear about that. I thought they were a very special team. Did I expect to win 22 games that year? Probably not. They kind of just gelled. We went on a spring break trip the year before, and I thought that's kind of what just set the tone for us. They just gelled. You guys know as coaches, you're going to gel not on the baseball field. It's what you do in the weight room. It's what you do outside of school. It's what you do in the cafeteria. It's what you do outside of the sport. That's where you get going, and that's where your team has success. So,
Yeah, I got it. My older son was on that team, and I didn't get to go on that spring break trip, but I kept on hearing stories from Lisa Hardy about things that happened at the restaurants and stuff. It was kind of crazy.
I'm gonna throw a story in real quick about the restaurant because I was talking to Coach Schubert earlier today, and he said, "Be sure to mention one thing." And I was like, "Oh no, what's he gonna say?" He said, "Be sure to talk about Burro Loco and getting Griswold on the donkey." So we're at a Mexican restaurant, and it was at the time probably we didn't know. We had no idea what type of restaurant it was. We just got reservations there because they could seat 20 to 30 people. And for the PG version, we're just gonna leave it that it was probably not the most appropriate restaurant, but they could seat us, and we went there. And Griswold tried to tell everybody it was his birthday, so they brought out this donkey, put a sombrero on him. He's riding a donkey around the restaurant, and everybody knows Griswold. That's Grizz. So I got another story for you later too about Griswold.
There we go.
I've never heard the donkey part. I've seen a picture of the hat. That's all I've seen. Oh my gosh.
But you know what, Coach Morrison, it's interesting you say that because you say it's not just necessarily about one person, but you mentioned Joe Hardy. And Joe Hardy was a holdover, I say, to when our boys were freshmen. And my son had never pitched consistently up to that point. And I genuinely say, lessons he was learning in 16 and 17, all those years manifested itself in my son. And we're talking about that in terms of catching this year. And Joe Hardy's the senior backstop. I mean, you just like Andrew, throw the baseball. Go out there and throw the baseball. So quite frankly, all those lessons learned that it's not just one person, but again, that history of coming through, that Joe was a tremendous influence, I know, on my own son, and I'm sure on many kids after that crop, because he was like probably the only senior on that class that was really impactful on that 17 team.
Yeah.
So.
And the thing that was unique about Joe was his baseball IQ compared to some of the other kids that didn't play the game either at a high level a lot, or like you said, you have kids that just come out and they want to have fun and they want to be a part of things and compete. You need those kids too, but Joe had the ability to play at that high level to where, and I'll never forget this play that he made at Valley View. He's behind the plate and ball in the dirt, runners on first and second. He didn't even think about throwing to third because he knew he didn't have a shot. And this is the 7th inning. We're up by 1 or 2 runs. And those are either the tying run and winning run in 2 outs. And he threw that kid out at second, and it wasn't even close. Because, the guy from first is always getting that later jump. And that non-hesitation and it was a seed right to second base, and the game was over like that. And so when you have kids like that in your program, and I'm not saying, like you said, I feel we have a pretty talented team this year, and everybody should feel that way going into a season. But knowing with the senior class that we have right now and the success that they've had the last couple of years, and obviously build off, some of them started since they were freshmen, that experience matters. I mean, you can see kids go from we talked about impact players going from starting as a freshman and batting, can't even find, bat 200, and then next thing you know, they get to that junior and senior year and they're batting 350, 450, 475. So experience does matter in this game. But there are unique kids like that, Joe Hardy, that you just love to have on your team. I mean, he's going to go out there and he knows what every situation is, and he knows what to do in every situation. He's not somebody you got to tell, hey, throw it here, do this, one single or whatever, or signal, and he's going to get the job done.
Obviously, Joe could handle the stick. He's our second leading hitter in terms of overall hits, right behind Sam Worley, and he's our all-time leading RBI guy. So, the stats bear out. I think he was a
The
player.
funny thing about Joe is he probably could have been the RBI leader in the statistic category for Dayton Christian, but he had Worley in front of him cleaning up the messes. So unfortunately, he was getting RBIs taken away because Worley was doing his job. Right? It was a unique situation to have them in the 4-5 hole together.
Yeah.
Joe being a freshman at the time and a sophomore, and Worley being a senior. So so Joe probably got a few RBIs taken away from him because the guy in front of him was eating him up.
Absolutely.
What was that?
So Coach Adams, I know you got a couple of years to draw from.
So the first one was when I was under Coach Sharp. It was Mike King. Mike King had a 464 career batting average, the highest in Dayton Christian history. In 2011, he hit 494, but he didn't get to the 40 at bat mark to have the career record for batting average in a season. Right? So, but he hit 494 that year. He, like I said, hit 464 for a career. I remember a ball he hit dead center field at fifth third, which was the hardest ball I've ever seen hit in 20 years of coaching baseball. And he was just special in the batter's box. Another kid on that team named Garrett Vonberg, who was a pitcher in 2010. He was a junior, and he was just one of those gamers, right? So that's a kid I remember. Fortunately for us, Garrett's coming back to be on our staff this year, and I'm really excited about that. And he was a grinder. As far as the team we have now, I mean, obviously this senior class is special, and they've won a ton of baseball games. So I can't really pick them apart, but the group of Bauer and Griswold and Dreyer and Dilhoff, I mean, 3 of them already committed to play college baseball, going somewhere to play college baseball. They're just a special group. They really are. I truly believe we would have 2 or 3 more in the senior class this year that could play college baseball if they wanted to. They've had offers. I've talked to them about it, but they don't want to. They want to play football, and that's great. But there's literally 5 or 6 college baseball players in our senior class. So I can't really pick those guys apart. I don't want to. They're a group. We're going to keep them as a group. For me, last year, obviously, Sam Jackson was special as a player and as a person. For whatever reason, when I first got here, me and Sam really hit it off. And he grew big time last season. And I don't, as any good player, you don't realize how important they were to your success until they're gone. And you're trying to find the solution, right? And so we're going through that right now with Sam graduating. Being honorable mention all area, first team Metro Buckeye. So that's the one guy from last year that I would single out since he's graduated.
So, well, let's take a real quick break, and we'll come back at it. This has been a great start.
Yeah.
Been a great start to this.
Hey, I'm Grizzy.
And I'm Ed, and we'll see you in a minute.